Hey, what is up guys? It's your boy Speed here, and today we're going to be going over 2 heroes for each role that I think are the best to play right now. This is going to be specifically tailored to pubs, not the pro scene, and I have a sneaky pick for each and every role. So I'm going to be covering the 2 heroes that I think are reliably the best, that if I had to pick 2 heroes and say, you can only play those 2 heroes and that's it, then I have those 2. But then at the end of each role, I will add a sneaky pick, a hero that if you learn to their optimum, you can really dominate. So definitely more difficult heroes with a high skill ceiling, but are very difficult to learn and pick up. Alright, before we get into the main part of the video, I do want to let you guys know that I'm not only posting videos here on YouTube, I also frequently post videos on the website. If you don't know what I'm talking about, almost every single day I'm posting a new video to the Game League website. We're going to teach you guys in depth about how to get to the next level. So if you want to become absolutely broken and really take your game to the next level, I'm going to be able to help you, because sometimes the guides on YouTube, there's either not enough of them, they're not specific, or they're just tier lists, which I know you guys love, but at the end of the day, the Game League website is going to help you get to the next level. So click the link down below and sign up. Alright, let's start off with role number 1. Now, to some extent, this list has not changed since the last list, and I don't want to just start making things up. I like to make these lists from time to time to kind of update people on my opinions, but I'm not just going to start saying like, oh, Wraith King is in the meta, guys, like, oh, the other carries got nerfed in 7.33E or whatever the patch was. It's like, nah, I mean, realistically, a lot of the carries that were good in the last patch are still going to be good. However, I will not be putting Medusa on this list, and that is a change. Either way, the first carry on the list is Naga Siren. Naga Siren has the second highest win rate out of every single hero in Dota right now, and that's pretty crazy because Naga Siren is not a very easy hero to play. It takes a little bit of time to learn, but honestly, I think the map setup, and I've been saying this for a while, heroes that can farm out side lanes, the core heroes that can farm out side lanes very quickly, heroes that can farm very quickly and connect to their team quickly, have an innate advantage in this current meta. And so Naga Siren is, in my opinion, the best hero in the game at doing that. Her illusions are so strong, clear waves in a second, are almost a 0-second downtime, and on top of that, it's easier than ever to kill people with Naga Siren, and I'll get into that in a second, but yeah, every time I play against Naga, unless the hero is countered directly in the lane by something like an Underlord, maybe a Timbersaw, even something like Darkseer doesn't necessarily dominate her, but unless she's directly countered, or Legion is a hero that's pretty good against Naga in the lane, if she is not directly countered, it feels miserable to play against this hero. Because even if, let's say you have decent answers, you have a hero that's going to buy Crimson Guard, and you have quite a bit of AoE damage, if the Naga Siren player knows what they're doing, they're going to get pickoffs with Orchid. The most common build on Naga Siren right now is Treads, Manta, into Orchid. On that Orchid timing, you can get a ton of pickoffs. After that, if the game is a little bit hard and you need a later timing, you play for Heart and you become reasonably unkillable. If the enemy team has no counters to you, and trust me, there's a lot of high MMR players who love last picking Naga when they see this. If the enemy team has no counters to your hero, on Heart, your hero is untouchable. It can clear every creep wave, you have no map control, it farms the 8 billion camps on the map, and the game feels impossible. And one of the most recent buffs to Naga that was extremely crucial to her rise in popularity is the fact that you can now net people during Song of the Siren. If you don't know what I'm talking about, previously, well, you couldn't do anything. You couldn't Hex, you couldn't Orchid, you couldn't do anything to people who are affected by Song of the Siren. There's now one exception to that, and that exception is Ensnare. Naga Siren's second ability can be cast on units during Song. And so, let's say you Orchided a hero, you Orchided a support, okay? And you kill that support. Storm Spirit then zips in. Your Orchid's on cooldown, and your net's on cooldown. Your net's on cooldown for 5 seconds, your Orchid's on cooldown for, let's say, 5 seconds. You can click Song of the Siren, buy that time, right? Sleep the storm, wait for net to come back up, net them during the song, and then kill them. Previously, you couldn't kill Storm. Well, you could with Orchid, but you couldn't kill him out of Song, right? Because he could always get zip off. It was faster than net. Now you just net him, and it's such a major difference. It constantly comes into play. Like, this is one of those changes where it seems potentially small, and it's just not. And so yeah, I think the map play of Naga, the map control of Naga, if you learn how to cut creep waves, this hero is devastating. The enemy team will never be able to push, even if your team is feeding, they'll never be able to push if you know what to do. And so as a carry player, if you're trying to 1v9 the game, this is the hero to do it on. You just have to learn the farming patterns, learn a little bit about control groups and how to split up your main hero with one illusion and the other 2 illusions on their own, and then cut creep waves. If you can do that, you'll become one of the most devastating players in pubs. And I'm not just saying that, I truly believe that. And then the other hero, I can't believe I'm saying this, but it's Meepo. I can't ignore him. I made a video on this hero. I made an offlane video on this hero, but it was played in the same way as it was played safe lane. I've made multiple videos on Meepo as of late, and the hero just looks good. And I think it's good for some of the similar reasons why Naga is good. Naga can farm areas and then show up to fights and continue to farm those areas because she has illusions. Meepo obviously doesn't have illusions, but he has more Meepos, and so you can make plays and farm the entire map at the same time. Now, I like him in the safe lane because honestly, I prefer this hero when he's focused on hitting hard timings rather than making big plays. I do think that the idea of like rotating Meepo from the safe lane through the twin gate to the off lane or to the enemy safe lane to kill their safe laner is a really high skill play and should be looked at. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, well, as I said, I covered it in a video, but you can use one of the Meepos to then poof in the other Meepo and then kill the enemy safe laner. It's really cool. You can farm the lane and gank at the same time. And this is really beneficial, and it's only possible because of the twin gate. And you might be like, oh, but you could have TP'd in the past. Yeah, you could have, but that commits to your TP. It's a weird angle. Now you get to flank the enemy with a Meepo, poof the other end, and get a kill. It's an incredibly impactful play that I've seen work time and time again from all of the Meepos that I've watched. And so yeah, there's just a ton of camps on the map. I prefer this hero as a safe laner compared to mid, even though it's fine as a mid. I prefer it as safe lane to mid because I just feel like it needs to put more of a priority on farming while someone opens up the map for him. I think it's better to have an initiating hero. You might be thinking like, oh, Meepo is an initiating hero. I think it's best when the hero's not. I think it's better when it can go in second and third and not get focused by every single spell because Meepo is a very kiteable hero. It just is. You might be thinking, oh, but he has so many nets. How is he kiteable? It's because, well, he can't buy BKB. But yeah, all in all, this hero farms really fast. The Axe is broken. The Shard is broken. It's just too good for those reasons. It farms the map well. It ganks well with the twin gate. It's actually quite easy to lane with. It has some bad matchups like Underlord. Extraordinarily easy to beat the Meepo. So I think that's Meepo's probably worst matchup actually. Like in the entire game. It's bad at every stage of the game. It's just a horrible matchup. Hero's a decent laner, farms fast, plays the map well. Ags is broken, Shard is broken, the Athos build is cool, and you Roche alone, which is actually really beneficial in pubs. And finally, the little sneaky hero I got is Lycan. This might seem a bit weird, but I think Lycan's a great carry right now. I was gonna put Brood, but they just nerfed Brood. I still think Brood carry is actually very, very good, and so if you're interested in another weird one, that's something to try out. It's actually devastating how hard that hero can hit. It can hit for like 600 at 35 minutes into the game. It's with no damage item. It's crazy. But Lycan, similar thing, universal hero. You start with 1-3 branches, something like that. Then you actually have a lot of roots. The most common build I've seen is like Bracer into Treads. After that, you go Echo, and then from there, it kind of just depends on what you need. If you need to go in early BKB, do so. If you need a Dispel, maybe the enemy team has like Skywrath and Ember Spirit and Veno. Well, to be fair, against those heroes, you don't even need Manta as Lycan. You do against Ember, but against the other heroes, not really, because you ignore slows. But yeah, if you need a Manta, you go Manta. If you want to buy Nullifier, I've seen multiple Lycan carries just go Echo Nullifier. If they think the enemy is going to buy a Crimson, like an early Crimson, they do that. If the enemy team has something like Pugna, they do that. If they have a Wind Ranger, they go Nullifier, right? And the reason why it's fine is this hero, because of the fact that it can't be slow during Shapeshift, it means that it can get away with greedier item builds, right? It doesn't necessarily need BKB in a lot of matchups. It does in some. It definitely needs it in some, but in a lot of matchups it doesn't. And then after that, the item build can go a lot of different routes. You can go Linken's if you just need to stat up and be the guy who runs in for your team. You can go a Daedalus, you can upgrade your Echo Saber into Harpoon and chase people down that way. And I really like the idea of just buying a lot of stats and then going Nullifier. You'll notice that Nullifier kind of completes this hero. It's a reasonably kiteable hero because of the fact that it doesn't have a stun or slow. It does with Echo, obviously. The Nullifier prevents you from just getting kited during Howl. You really want to get value out of the Minus Armor and value out of the Shapeshift. And so I think going some sort of Echo Saber, Manta, and a Nullifier tends to be the way to go. This hero farms very, very fast. It can play high tempo, and it can snowball. So big fan of Lycan carry. Now let's get into mid laners. I think the best mid laner right now is Timbersaw. I just think that Timbersaw, even after the nerfs, losing 5 movement speed, 10 damage on chain at all levels, and 0.1 HP regen on all levels on the reactive armor, it just didn't affect him very much. And it doesn't affect the fact that you take your Q at level 1 in the laning stage. So I think Timber mid is just great. It has almost no bad matchups. Truly, it has really almost no bad matchups. There's not maybe Huskar is a little rough, but in the mid game, that's a good matchup because you can one-shot Huskar with your pure damage. Every spell is pure on Timber, right? So I think this hero is best as a mid. I actually think he's better as a mid than as an offlaner. I think the hero is very, very level dependent. It can roam. It can do well in the lane. It can pressure the mid tower. If it desires, it can stack ancients in the large camp, in the triangle, and flash farm. It has options. It's a great, great mid, right? It can pressure the safe laner extraordinarily easily when, you know, you're level 9 and they're level just 6 or 7. You can, with maxed out chain and 3 points in your nuke and your ult, usually you're going to be 2-4-1 or 2-4-2. 2-4-2 with a point in ult at level 9. But let's assume you're that. Most safe laners take 2/3, half their health with 1 round of spell. It's extremely easy to bully them out. And my favorite build is the CC and C build. He does go different builds, but primarily he goes bottle, sometimes magic wand, sometimes raindrops. But from there, it's just mana boots and a Vanguard. After Vanguard, you go soul ring. And this makes you have about 1,500 health with high armor. And with the neutral item, you can have like 1,700 health, basically like 13 minutes in. It's crazy. You can farm stacks, take enemy stacks, invade areas. You're untouchable against most lineups. It's devastating, I'm telling you. It's not an easy mechanical hero, but in the laning stage, you take your Q and then reactive armor, right? You take Whirling Death, then reactive armor. If the lane is hard, you take another point in reactive armor. If it's easy, you take Whirling Death. Then typically you max out your chain, right? So you're usually going to be 2-4-2. Then you're going to max out your Q. Then eventually reactive armor, of course, skilling your ulti when you can. It's a great build. Then we have Primal Beast. Primal Beast just got buffed a lot and the other mids have gotten nerfed a lot. And yeah, I see Primal Beast doing great. I just had one in my pub recently and he dominated. He even rushed a heart, which is, it was Phase Boots Wand Bottle Heart, which was quite bizarre. It was Brile. I don't know if he was trolling a bit or... People think Heart is good on Primal. I think it's partially because it amps trample damage, but I'm not so sure. It's like lack of BKB on Primal is quite odd. Your hero is somewhat kiteable, but either way, yeah, they just buffed Pulverize a little bit too hard in my opinion. And now the hero has a much, much easier time one-shotting people. And finally, the situational hero you can go for is Leshrac. This hero just got buffed in the laning stage a little bit too hard in my opinion. The Lightning Storm does 20 more damage at each level, and it makes the laning stage noticeably better. It's easier to CS with it, easier to harass. The Q radius is bigger, Diabolic Edict cooldown's better. If you can pick IO Lesh, it's really broken. Now getting into offlaners. First of all, we have Darkseer at a 54% win rate. It's just the best aura buyer in the game right now. And it takes advantage of the open map. It farms all the camps extremely quickly, and I really think the best thing to do in the current meta is basically to have like a glorified offlaner. It's essentially a safe laner. Like, I think it's hard to play Dota, in my opinion, at a high level if your offlaner doesn't farm fast. It doesn't have to be the case. Like, for instance, you'll see some pro teams get away with Mars, who doesn't jungle really at all, and that's because they're playing a very high tempo style of Dota. And you can do that, and you definitely can do that in pubs because people are constantly out of position. But if people are in position and playing around each other, it's really nice to have this hero like Darkseer that has the option between playing fast with Shell and Surge, or just saying, okay, game's a little bit slow. Whatever, I'm happy to farm. I'm gonna buy 3 aura items, make my team unkillable, and I'm gonna get those aura items way faster than you do, right? And so yeah, this hero scales very well, has great talents. Wall of Replica damage at 10, Vacuum AoE at 15, Ion Shell damage at 20, and Ion Shell charges at 25. So scales very, very well. Then we have Legion. It's just the pick-off hero. Good laner, very easy to lane with, scales well, farms pretty fast. It's just like an overall great pub hero. Just eat your Blade Mail blink timing and duel people, and you're gonna probably have a good game. And finally is Enchantress. Yeah, I like this hero as an offlaner. It got nerfed as a support because I think the best way to play it as a support was to take Impetus at level 1 and spam it. That got nerfed pretty hard. It's like, it went from 8% damage to 5%, which is almost half. So the way I think the offlane should be played is actually taking your E at level 1. And this might seem weird because the E is pretty intensive in mana, but Impetus being much worse at level 1 now, even though it actually still might be okay, I kind of like taking the E because E at level 2 is broken. Like, Enchantress heal at level 2 is insane. And what you can do is you go point and heal at level 1, and you just trade, you just kind of play the lane normally. The reason why Impetus does feel better typically even on core range is because it lets you secure the range creep, which is a reason to maybe still take it. But the build I like is either Impetus to secure creeps if you really need to, maybe the lane's a little bit harder, or you can go really aggressive with Nature's Attendance and just hit, right? You just hit, and it doesn't cost really more mana than Impetus because you're spamming Impetus and you only have to use Attendance every so often. Then you take Enchant at level 2 and 3, you get one of the big creeps from the large camp, and you just send it at the enemy safe laner. Then from there you might be like, okay, great, you can lane on Ench, but you take the tower because the build I recommend you go is 3 points in enchant. So usually 0, 3, 2, and then ult. So you're basically impossible to gank because you can heal yourself, you have a creep that can protect you, and you now have untouchable. And so you can take the tower with 3 points in the creep, you can farm with 3 points in the creep, and then you max your impetus. It will delay the impetus being good, but honestly, I don't think you actually need max impetus early on because of the fact that your creep is going to be a high level because you're a core, you're going to have higher levels, your creep is much stronger early on, and then eventually when you get your Dragonlance, you'll still probably have 2 points in impetus, right? Because you're going to go Treads 1 Dragonlance with Raindrops. I definitely recommend Raindrops on this hero. 1 and Treads, just good sustain. But yeah, you eventually get your impetus maxed out, you go Hurricane Pike, and man, this hero just pumps damage. It shoves waves, it farms fast, like it's just a good offlaner, man. I'm telling you, this hero is just a good core. And then for position 4s, we have Clinks. I know this is a weird one to recommend. The hero is a 53% win rate, and I have a feeling a lot of it has to do with core Clinks, and I don't want to mix up the two. But I actually think position 4 Clinks is great in pubs. I think the main weakness with position 4 Clinks is actually his laning stage. And honestly, my opinion is on heroes frequently is if the hero is a bad laner, and that's like its biggest weakness, for instance, it's a bad laner, but it's a good mid to late game hero, it's probably a good hero in average pubs, or like your typical pub. And the reason why is people don't pressure the lanes as hard as they should. They don't. You might be like, oh, they do. Trust me, Speed, I'm 0-8 in my average game. They do. They don't, all right? I don't know what to tell you. They don't. What Clinks does well is getting into the mid game. When people are just running around like chickens without their heads, all right? Clinks is fantastic. He's great at getting down sneaky wards because he goes invis. He can split push and take towers easily. He can farm if the game is slow paced. He can solo kill supports. Please take a point and strafe if you're gonna do this. I think the best skill build is 1-1-1 or 0-2-1 into 1-2-1. Sometimes I think it is okay to go 0-1-2 and take 2 points in the death pack to heal yourself, but the fact that people will just skip strafe makes me want to vomit in my mouth. I don't understand it. This ability is like 0 mana cost and such a good value point. Why in the world do people skip it? It's so bad that people skip it. It blows my mind. But either way, the hero buys Solar Crest. You don't have to buy boots. Just buy Solar Crest, then buy boots, then buy Nullifier and solo kill supports. That's it. Trust me, take my word for it. Farm, take towers, solo kill supports in the fights, and you'll be like, wow, this is actually really good. All right, then we got Skywrath Mage. It's just a good laner, reliable. Ever since they gave Spell Lifesteal to the Q, if you don't know what I'm talking about, when Skywrath Mage uses Arcane Bolt on an opponent, if he casts any other spell on them, including the next Arcane Bolt, it gives you Spell Lifesteal and up to 50%. And so this hero went from a hero that kind of was just all in on burst to a hero that could play kind of tank, which is why we've seen a shift away from E-Blade, Ags, Veil of Discord, boom, 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 even though Veil's good, just going like full explosive, nuke 'em down build to Pavis, Solar Crest, Force Staff, sometimes Glimmer Cape, and you play around being tanky, buying a useful item. You're a good laner, which is nice. It helps a little. You're a very good laner. Let me take that back. You're a hero that can get kills, which is, it makes a big difference, right? When you can solo kill the 5 in a lot of cases. But yeah, you scale well now. This is a problem the hero had in the past. If the enemy team bought 4 staffs and Glimmer, you're like, oh, well, I'm not that useful because you were completely reliant on your ult to get value. Now that's not really the case, right? It's just not, right? It's truly not the case because your Q makes you pretty tanky and you buy items that give you armor and then you don't get one shot and you have good talents. And so, yeah, the hero is now played more as a scaling hero. I really think it's much better than it's ever been. And so I would definitely recommend picking it. Then we have Lion. Lion is the sneaky pick here, but I don't think he's that sneaky. I think this hero has been buffed like 3 or 4 times in a row. It's getting picked by the best team in the world, the Gaming Gladiators. I think it was picked like 3 times in the finals. At least twice, if not 3 times. I can't remember exactly, but it's just a good hero. Its base stats are its problem, but they buffed the finger, they buffed the Q range, they buffed Hex cooldown and Hex range, if I'm not mistaken. The Shard is incredibly good. And yeah, just there's a lack of stuns in Dota right now. The reason why I say that is every stun was nerfed, including Lion's. However, because he has 2 hard stuns, it's not that noticeable. A lot of heroes have a problem chain stunning nowadays, especially if the enemy has status resist. With Lion on your team, it's very likely you can still burst people down without them getting off BKB, Pipe, Crimson, whatever it is, Mech. And I think that's a huge benefit in the current meta. And finally, for position 5 heroes, the first one, and honestly in my opinion the most obvious, is Undying. Even after his quote-unquote nerfs in the most recent patch, it really changed nothing. The hero's still incredibly good. It's one of the best laners, and you might be like, oh, but Speed, you said laning doesn't matter in average pubs. Okay, if you get good at Undying, you should learn how to lane, please. If you're gonna bother watching my videos and you're gonna pick Undying, of course I'm gonna mention his laning. It's like the main reason why the hero is good. I would say that's one of the main reasons the hero is good, all right? It is a good laner, but it doesn't just like fall off in the lane, right? And as I said earlier, if the downside of the hero is that it's only a bad laner, then it's like, in my opinion, not whatever, but it's not the end of the world for pubs. It's like Spectre. Why does that hero, even though it's untouched in the pro scene, do fine in pubs? Because it doesn't get that punished that hard in the lane. It doesn't get pressured that hard in the jungle. It can just farm up lane creeps because people just push in the lane for no reason, and it just recovers. But that doesn't happen when you get to a pro level, right? But it happens in your average 2 to 3K game. That's how it goes. However, Undying can dominate the lane, get his team off to a good start, and scale well. Max Decay, the Max Decay build is great. And then you can help your team take Roche with the Tombstone, getting the Tormentor Shard. Even though they nerfed Grab Ally, it's still incredibly good. It's still very, very useful. You can still put people in your Tombstone for way too long and save them. So it's a good scaling hero. Flesh Golem is a great spell. Tombstone's a great spell. They both win team fights. They both win all of these early game skirmishes where people just kind of click their buttons and run into each other. And so yeah, Undying, easily my favorite 5. My second favorite 5 is Jakiro, maybe AA. Both of these heroes have a 54-ish% win rate, but I think Jakiro, I always hype this hero up, and for good reason. It's a good laner, and it's reliable as hell. I say it in so many videos. Jakiro is all reliable. Need to shove waves? Click your Q. Need to fight early on? Max your Q. Need to stun? Max your W. Need burst damage? Click your ult. Need to take towers? Your E does that fantastic. You're very good at helping out with Roche because you have attack speed slows. It's a very well-rounded and balanced hero that provides a lot of damage. It also scales well, so it's a hero that's kind of just like good throughout every point of the game, and it's not mechanically difficult to play. Yes, you can miss your ice path and place Macro Pyre in the wrong way, but for the most part, it's a very straightforward hero that has a lot of impact and can shove waves. It's also great at defending towers, and you know what it's really good at? Punishing people who clump up and just kind of run into your team. And you know what the average pub looks like? 5 players bashing their heads into each other off cooldown for 30 minutes until someone eventually wins. And Jakiro's very good against that, so is Undying. You know what hero's not really good against that? Shadow Demon, but he's the sneaky pick of today's video, and the reason why is I think this hero's spells are wonderful. Disruption lasting 11 seconds. Like, why do the illusions last 11 seconds? Can someone tell me why? It's way too long. This hero's great at trading in lane just for that reason. Okay, sometimes great at trading in lane. Depends on its matchups, but way better, I feel like, than what it used to be. I swear, this hero's really annoying to play against because the disruption illusions just last forever and do a lot. And then Shadow Poison at level 2 does a ton of damage. Well, level 2 Shadow Poison at level 3. The main selling point to me about this hero, well, there's 3. Okay, number 1 is the second ability, which if I had to poll the majority of the Dota community, I don't think like 80 to 90% of the community could tell me what this spell does. So let me explain it. It's called Disseminate. You click it on your ally or an enemy, and then that ally or enemy shares the damage that they take to the enemies around them. But that's not it. But what is particularly special about this ability is the second line of text in the description. All enemies, including the target itself, if it is an enemy, receives a portion of that damage. So if you click this ability on someone and your team goes on them, even if they are alone, they will take 35% extra damage. Crazy, right? You hear that and you're like, really? Is that really what it does? Yes, that's really what it does. And if their teammates are around them, they also take the damage. This ability is freaking nuts, guys. Then its ulti is so good against auras, especially Crimson. Even though Crimson is not that popular in pubs and is falling off, it's still really, really good. It's good against Yules. It's good against all the glimmers and Pavis and Force Staffs that are popular. The Shard is the last thing. Being able to dispel your allies constantly is a game changer, right? It heals them for 300 at level 1, up to 600 at max level. Being able to put it on an ally, let's say a Sven, right? Who typically will get daggered by Quab. slowed by a Solar Crest, slowed by some random PA dagger, just kited and kited and kited, slowed by some random phylactery, or just, getting sticky napalm stacks on him from Batrider, or an ignite from Ogre Magi. All of it is erased for a long time, 7 seconds. I just think that this hero in the mid game is insane. Either way, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope to see you in the next one, and I'm out.
And that's all, but remember, before you leave, before you tune out, subscribe to the Game Leap website where we are going to help you get to the next rank. If you're stuck, click the link down below, and I'm out. Peace.